I spent $87 buying the most popular memory supplements on Amazon. These 6 bottles here promise better memory, sharper focus, and even protection from dementia. But when I started digging into the science behind them, I discovered something surprising. One of these supplements actually has real clinical trial evidence behind it. And one of them could be dangerous if you're taking common medications like blood thinners. So in this video, we are going to investigate all the 6 bottles, including lion's mane, Bacopa Monnieri, Ashwagandha, Curcumin, MCT Oil, as well as last but not the least, Ginkgo Biloba. We will look at the actual clinical trials to see what the science really says, and then we will also examine the labels because the dose and formulation matters a lot. By the end of this video, you will know which supplements might help your brain, which ones are wasting your money, and how to read the labels. I'm a dementia specialist. I see patients every week who come in holding bags of supplement, sometimes spending hundreds of dollars each month, asking me if any of them are helping. The answer most of the times breaks their heart. If you are on blood thinners, seizure medications, thyroid medications, have liver disease, please do not add anything to your routine without talking to your doctor first. Also, stay with me to learn which one of these supplements is interacting with these. Now, to understand my verdicts, you need to understand how am I grading the evidence. Not all studies are created equal. Mechanism in a cell line is very different from a randomized controlled trials in human. Again, an animal study is different from a small pilot study in 20 people. And a small pilot study is different from a large multi-year randomized controlled trial with thousands of participants. That latter matters because most of the supplement marketing lives at the bottom rung and most consumers assume it is the top. That's the gap I'm here to close. Before I rank anything, I have to say this clearly, and it's the most important thing in this entire video. No supplement on this list has been proven to prevent Alzheimer's disease or dementia. Not one. But we have all these supplements that claim that they help with memory and thinking. So let's evaluate them one by one. I am going to rank these supplements from the weakest to the strongest evidence, and I promise you that the supplement that ranks number 1 is not number 1 because it works. The reason it tops the list is actually a reason that will change how you read every supplement label going forward. Number 6, lion's mane. Hericium iraceus. This is internet's favorite brain mushroom right now, and the hype is genuinely ahead of the evidence. Here's what the best human trial actually showed. A double-blind, placebo-controlled trial that was published in Phytotherapy Research in 2009 by Mori et al. And colleagues randomized about 30 people with mild cognitive impairment to roughly 3 grams of lion's mane per day versus placebo or the sugar pill. Cognitive scores improved during the 16 weeks of the supplementation. Here's the part that nobody shares in their Instagram post. The scores declined after they stopped the supplementation. And that's a red flag. It suggests that there are no structural benefits. At best, you might need to keep taking it indefinitely to maintain whatever effect is there. And even then, 30 people with just 15 people getting the supplement is a very small sample. Now let's look at this bottle. The serving size for this is 2 capsules providing 1 gram of lion's mane, described as mycelium fermented on brown rice. The trial used 3 grams per day of mushroom preparation, which is almost certainly not the same as mycelium on grain product. So not the same. My verdict on lion's mane, mildly interesting early signal in a very small, mild cognitive impairment trial, not proven to prevent dementia, not disease modifying, and the label that you're holding probably doesn't match what was studied. So if lion's mane is number 6 with one small randomized controlled trial, what does number 5 look like? Actually worse in some ways, because the problem with number 5 isn't the evidence, it's the label. Number 5, Bacopa Monnieri. Bacopa actually has more human trial data than most people realize. A 2014 meta-analysis by Conkeef and colleagues in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology pooled randomized controlled trials and found modest evidence for improvements in certain cognitive measures, particularly attention and processing speed. That is genuinely more than most herbs can claim. So why is Bacopa only number 5? Because of what I see on this label. Look at this. The serving size is 2 capsules giving you 1,000 milligrams of Bacopa leaf. 1,000 milligrams. Sounds impressive, but there is no bacoside standardization listed. Bacosides are the active compounds in Bacopa that the trials actually studied. Without knowing what percentage of those 1,000 milligrams are bacosides, you cannot compare this product to any clinical trial. Compare this to another bottle that clearly states 450 milligrams of standardized to 20% bacoside. Now that's a number that you can work with clinically. This 1,000 milligrams in this bottle with no standardization listed, that number is essentially meaningless. My verdict in Bacopa, there is a legitimate meta-analysis behind it, but your label matters enormously. If bacosides are not listed, you're flying blind. Now here's something that genuinely surprised me when I started pulling trials data for this video. The supplement at number 4 has human randomized controlled trials in mild cognitive impairment patients, the exact population that I see in the clinic. And the interaction risk on number 4 is something most people have never heard discussed. Number 4, Ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is marketed everywhere for stress, sleep, increasingly for cognition. And there is actually a randomized controlled trial in mild cognitive impairment. Chaudhary and colleagues published in the Journal of Dietary Supplements in 2017 gave patients 300 milligrams twice daily of ashwagandha root extract, that is about 600 milligrams daily, and reported improvements in memory and executive function over 12 weeks. Small study, but it is a real randomized controlled trial evidence in a relevant population. Now, let's look at this bottle. 600 milligrams of root extract per capsule, standardized to a minimum of 2.5 total vithanolides. That is about 15 milligrams of vithanolides per capsule. That is a reasonable standardization to have listed. The dose on this label, 1 capsule daily, is beyond the trial dose of 600 milligrams twice daily. So pay attention to that gap. Here is also a safety piece that I want you to remember. Ashwagandha has rare but documented cases of liver injury in the literature. There are also signals around thyroid hormone interaction. So if you are on thyroid medication, this is not something to add casually. My verdict on ashwagandha, probably the most honest indirect mechanism. Stress down, sleep up, cognition may follow. Small randomized controlled trial signal in individuals with mild cognitive impairment. But the safety profile requires a real conversation with your doctor before you start this supplement. Stay with me because at number 3, I am going to show you a label math problem that should make you angry. This is a supplement where the label and the trial are the furthest apart, and it's probably the one that you are most excited about. Number 3, curcumin, or as it's usually sold, turmeric. Here is the core problem with almost every curcumin product on Amazon. Plain curcumin has notoriously poor bioavailability. You can swallow 400 milligrams and your body absorbs very little part of it. The clinical trials that show any meaningful cognitive signal almost always use the enhanced bioavailable formulations, not just the basic turmeric powder. The most cited positive trial is from Small and colleague in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry in 2018. They used a bioavailable curcumin called as terracurmin in non-demented older adults over 18 months and reported modest improvements in memory and attention. Importantly, this was not a dementia trial. The trial was small, used an exploratory PET marker to look at Alzheimer's proteins, but it was studied in non-demented adults, that is, individuals who were not having any memory changes, and it has not been followed by a definitive replication that showed progression of Alzheimer's. The product on my desk says Long Vida Optimized Curcumin Extract, 400 milligrams per capsule, minimum 20% curcuminides. Long Vida is a specific bioavailable form of curcumin, but it is not the same as 2018 trial terracurmin, but it is at least attempting to solve the bioavailability problem that plain turmeric powder completely ignores. And there's an interesting detail here. In traditional Indian cooking, turmeric is almost always paired with black pepper. And that's not just for taste. Black pepper actually contains a compound called as piperin, which research shows increases the absorption of curcumin by 2,000%. And on some turmeric supplement bottles, you can actually see piperin listed as one of the ingredients to increase the bioavailability. My verdict on curcumin: the mechanism is interesting, the bioavailability problem is real and often ignored on labels, and the trial evidence is promising but not strong enough to call disease modifying. If you are going to buy curcumin, buy a bioavailable formulation, not a basic turmeric powder, and the label should say something like terracurmin, Long Vida, or with addition of piperin extract or bioperin. Now here's where this experiment gets interesting. Number 2 is the one that surprised me the most when I started doing the math, because it has a mechanism that actually makes biochemical sense. And the label math translates into tablespoons in a way that you can actually measure and use. Number 2, MCT oil, specifically C8 caprylic triglycerides. The mechanism here is not magic, it is metabolism. When you take caprylic triglycerides, your liver converts this into ketones. Some brains, particularly in early Alzheimer's, have impaired glucose metabolism, but can still utilize ketones as an alternative fuel source. That's the biological rationale. And there is actual randomized controlled trial data behind it. Henderson and colleagues published a trial in Neurobiology of Aging in 2009 using AC1202, a caprylic triglyceride compound, in mild to moderate Alzheimer's patients. They saw a cognitive signal, But here is the critical nuance. The benefit was most pronounced in participants who were ApoE4 negative. Now, I have made a video about this in the past, but briefly, if you carry the ApoE4 gene variant, the data suggests that you may not respond in the same way. And the catch is that having the ApoE4 variant of the gene actually increases your risk of Alzheimer's. Therefore, most of the patients with Alzheimer's have this gene. So it does not have evidence in the exact population that needs it the most. This product I brought is Bulletproof Brain Octane MCT Oil C8, 1 tablespoon, 15 milliliters, gives 14 grams of caprylic triglyceride. The trial dose approximation sits around 20 grams per day, which is roughly 1.5 teaspoons of this product. That is actually a dose that you can translate in real life, but to be very clear, this is a retail product and it's not the same compound as what was studied in the trial. And the GI side effects, diarrhea, bloating, camping are commonly reported, especially when starting. My verdict on MCT oil mechanism is coherent. There is a randomized control trial with meaningful signal, and the label math also actually works out to be a usable number. But it's not a cure. It is a metabolic support, not disease modification. And now, number 1, Ginkgo Biloba. I told you earlier that the number 1 supplement that earns the position for a reason that you might not expect. Here it is. Ginkgo has the largest, the longest, the most rigorous randomized control trial of anything on the list. The GEM trial. Dikoski and colleagues published this in JAMA in 2008 to standardize ginkgo extract or placebo for 6 years. The dose was 120 milligrams twice daily. That is 240 milligrams daily. The Gildage trial in Europe, published in Lancet Neurology in 2018, also ran for 5 years with over 2,000 participants. These are serious trials, and here is the finding that earns ginkgo the top slot and simultaneously delivers the most important lesson of this video. Neither trial showed a meaningful reduction in dementia incidence. Ginkgo does not prevent dementia. Now, look at this bottle. Serving size, 2 capsules, total 60 milligrams of extract, standardized to 24% ginkgo flavone and 6% terpene lactones. The label directions say 2 capsules twice daily. That gives you about 120 milligrams per day. That is half of the trial dose of 240 milligrams per day. Half. And even at the full trial dose, in studies with thousands of people over multiple years, there was no prevention signal. So the ranking twist that I promised you is this. Ginkgo is number 1, not because it works for prevention that has been tested rigorously enough for us to say with genuine confidence. Every other supplement hasn't even earned a definitive no yet. They're still in small trial phase. Ginkgo went through the full test and it came back with a clear answer. Now, I promised you at the very beginning of this video that I will tell you which supplement I genuinely worry about from an interaction standpoint. It is Ginkgo. Ginkgo has clinically documented antiplatelet effect. It can inhibit platelet activating factor and effector bleeding time. If you are taking warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel, apixaban, or any other anticoagulant or antiplatelet or blood thinning agent, and many of my patients are, adding ginkgo without telling your clinician is not a minor decision. There are case reports of serious bleeding events. This is the interaction that I see most frequently ignored at the pharmacy counter. So if you walked away from this video remembering only one thing about safety, let it be that. So here's the honest accounting of my $87. 6 supplements, 0 proven dementia prevention, a few with modest preliminary signals in mild cognitive impairment or symptom support. MCT oil and bioavailable curcumin probably being the most scientifically interesting of those, one with the largest trial data that definitively shows no prevention benefit, and all of them sitting below the quality of evidence of the lifestyle interventions, exercise, sleep, blood pressure control, and hearing treatment. So was the $87 worth it? For me, yes, because it let me show you exactly what you are buying versus what was studied. For most of my patients, they would have gotten more brain protective value spending that money on a gym membership, on a hearing test, or a decent blood pressure monitor. That's my final verdict. You now know what of 6 most popular memory supplements actually show in randomized controlled trials, and which one comes with the real medical interaction risk that most people never hear about. I hope this was a helpful video. In my next videos, I'm working on reviewing other popular supplements, and if you're caring with someone with memory loss and you've been told something that you're not sure about, please drop it down in the comments. I'll read them and we will fact check it together. I'll see you back in my next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.